This Jeffrey Epstein, the new charges have obviously come up in the last week, but the sweetheart deal is from a decade ago. And while Acosta was questioned about it during his confirmation, he was confirmed. Should we be taking a look back again at how that confirmation process went? This isn't new news.
Well, look, he's gone. I don't know that I want to dig into the confirmation process. I really want to dig into the issue of whether there was public corruption. I mean, I'm very interested in the fact that the federal prosecutors on this are from the public integrity section of the Justice Department. I think there may be a bigger story here about whether money was involved in why this went down. I mean, you have to ask yourself why Acosta let Epstein off the hook so gratuitously, and his explanations never held up on this. The question for the Republicans and the president and Mitch McConnell is why you didn't care, and whether you still care now, and whether you're going to do anything differently. And I think Mr. Wehner's point is very, very well taken. The president himself has been credibly accused of sexual misconduct, even rape more recently, and we need to take those allegations seriously.
Congressman, I am going through north of 20 titles within this administration, vacancies or acting titles. For those of us who are not in Washington, who have never been part of an administration, you, of course, were part of the Clinton administration, what does that mean for how the president is able to enact his legislative agenda with so many people simply not in those positions?
Well, it means he does not take governing seriously. And I think that's a very important point. It sounds kind of dry, but the fact of the matter is, an issue after issue, the president and Mitch McConnell are taking a walk on doing things that matter for kids at the border, for our environment, for our healthcare system, and on a bunch of other issues. And you cannot take governing seriously when you have no government. We don't have a Secretary of Defense, for goodness sake, when we are toe-to-toe with the Iranians right now in the Gulf. I don't think this president takes the governing part of his job seriously. I think he sees it as an extended Twitter war, as some sort of public relations game, as some sort of ratings play, or some sort of effort to just put himself in the center of every conversation. But there's an actual job here called President of the United States, and you can't do it by yourself. That's what's going on, is they're hollowing out the mechanisms for running the country.
Okay, then David Drucker, I turn to you. Why does the president remain so popular with Republicans if the governing part of the job is what he's not so keen on? The PR and the politics might get you into office, but actually working through, David Drucker, working through that legislative agenda, how do you get that done with all these people not in those jobs?
Right. So this answers the question of why you don't see more Republicans in Congress stand up to the president and say publicly what they say privately, because their own voters are very satisfied with the president, and the president's numbers with Republican voters is very, very good. And I think one of the reasons is that these voters, first of all, want to see, a lot of them want to see Washington broken up into pieces by somebody who's shaking things up in their view and turning things upside down, because they don't actually think it was working before. With more traditional presidents that did things in ways that we think are more effective, that were more traditional, they think it wasn't working for them. I think the other thing you have to look at is, for the things that the president said he would do on the campaign trail, they have seen him, according to Republican voters, deliver. The tax bill is something that he delivered. Judges is something that he has delivered. Pulling out of the Iranian nuclear deal, important to a subset of Republican voters, something he delivered. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, something he delivered. So there, I think that the congressman makes a very good point. I think the president has hampered his own legislative agenda by trying to run everything like it's the Trump organization, no delegation, everything revolving around him. But for voters that are Republicans, that are happy with the president, one of the reasons is he is doing what he said that he would do, and these are things that they wanted him to do. And that, by the way, Stephanie, includes the trade issue. It's been very problematic. The president hasn't had much to show for it, but they wanted to see him fight China. He's fighting China, and right now that's good enough.
He's fighting China, and let's remind our audience, agricultural sales to China down 31% from where they were last year. So again, he may be winning a PR war. Hang tight. I must bring into this conversation Miami Herald's own Julie K. Brown, whose fearless, tenacious reporting brought the details of Acosta overseeing Epstein's plea deal to light. She joins us now by phone. Julie, are you surprised?
Damn it.
Julie, can you hear me? She doesn't hear us yet, so let's wait just a moment. Basil, David sort of went through there all the reasons why Republicans are pleased with the president. Do you actually believe that he's executed on so many of those, or he's told quite a story?
He's told quite a story. I mean, I think to David's point, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, obviously, and the tax bill, those are executable decisions. Absolutely, he's done that. But has it actually had the effect, particularly? Have they actually had an effect on helping those workers and those voters that he claims to stand up for? No. The problem is that I think what voters are waiting for is a Democrat to put that narrative together to create the counter narrative, to create the alternative. In the absence of that thus far, we have a commander-in-chief who has this bully pulpit who is able to sort of dig in as deep as he can with those voters that will support him no matter what. But I do think there's an opportunity for us to erode that a bit, particularly on this issue of affordability. Yes, the metrics of the economy are doing better, but can you afford your car? Could you afford your house? What about sending your kids to college? If you can't afford those things, that's I think an argument that we can make.
The question to every American, are you doing better? Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald, I believe we now have on the phone. Julie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
The news of Secretary Acosta stepping down, your reaction?
Well, you know, I'm surprised it happened this fast, but, you know, that press conference that he gave the other day didn't do him any good, much help. He, and practically everything that he said at that conference was either inaccurate or, twisted in some way to benefit him, to make him look good. And in reality, there's nothing here that makes him look good. I mean, he dropped the ball on this case, and we had been preparing to do a fact-check story for tomorrow's paper that would essentially use documents to show that everything he said was not true.
Wow. What was the clearest, the biggest inaccuracy from Acosta's press conference 2 days ago?
Well, I think his point, he was blaming the state prosecutor. The state prosecutor dropped the ball on this case, too, but that doesn't absolve Mr. Acosta of his role. I mean, he is a federal prosecutor. The reason why the police chief, Michael Ritter, went to the U.S. prosecutor and the FBI was because he saw that the state prosecutor wasn't going to do his job. So it fell into the hands of Mr. Acosta to do the right thing. And by blaming the lower person on the law enforcement chain, I think was it didn't look good.
No one has done more reporting on this than you. Obviously, this week, I know you've already spoken to victims who've come out. Given all that's happened in the last few days, and especially right now, do you think we'll be hearing from more victims, some we haven't yet heard from?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I know for a fact that there's journalists all over the world covering this story now. He had been recruiting in other countries. So I'm sure that there's going to be more information coming out, not only about his operation, but, remember there were a lot of employees and other people, big people, who, if they weren't involved in the operation, they knew about the operation. And, it's time for them also to come clean on this. I know some of them were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements, but it's time that they step up.
Recruiting women from other countries. And let me just remind the audience, 2 days ago in that press conference, Alexander Acosta said, it's 10 years later, we view things differently now. Not so much. Julie, thank you so much for reporting. Thank you for joining me. Victoria, Peter, Congressman David.